Hello there, I'm Rachel. I am the founder of the Ritual Movement, and you've landed yourself on a mobility special. We're going to be focusing today on your hips, your quads, and your lower back. So, if you are somebody who maybe spends a lot of time sitting, maybe you notice you feel either tight in your hips or gripping in your low back, or maybe you even experience some twinges of pain in your knees, this is going to be a helpful mobility routine for you. So a few pieces of equipment that will help you be successful today. Foam roller, something long like this, buddy, or you can go short. Both will work just fine. A lacrosse ball. If you don't have something like this laying around, a tennis ball will work just fine as well, or maybe even a softball. A yoga block. And then a thicker resistance band. I have two different kind of examples here. This one is kind of the sweet spot for me. And then a thicker one might be better for some folks who like to feel a little bit more resistance. So grab one of those. So the first part of our mobility routine is going to involve some self-massage, or what's also known as SMR, self-myofascial release. Don't worry, there won't be a quiz later. We're going to start with your hips, and we're going to start with the gentlest option, which is this foam roller. So you're going to take that foam roller, put it kind of across your mat if you have one. You can do this on the carpet as well. You're going to have a seat on it. Your feet are going to be out here kind of like rudders. And then your hands are going to be just supporting you behind your body. And this might already feel like enough of a massage here on the old booty cheeks. If it is, then you can just stay here for about 2 minutes so that, you've got about a minute of love per side. See, I can feel myself going over knots right now, even as it is. So that's the gentlest option. The next gentlest option would be to cross one ankle over the other. I'm going to drive this knee out and away, and I'm going to kind of lean toward that side. So my left leg's out, I'm going to lean on the left. I'm really targeting this outer hip. Okay, so I'm going to spend a minute on this side. Before we start, if you're already feeling like this is the option you want to go with, you can stay here. The most aggressive option, now if you were holding your breath in the one we were just on, if it was too aggressive, then don't move on any further. But if you want to feel more, you can use this guy or your tennis ball or your softball. It's going to go just below the belt line. Same positions, I'm crossing over, and I'm just rolling out. This is on this outer hip, this glute med. And you can see how this is a lot more targeted and aggressive way to massage out this outer hip. So we're going to spend a minute on each side. So I'm going to start our timer. And I'm going to use this ball because I'm feeling real tight and I feel like I need it. Not so tight that I can't breathe or I'm holding my breath. And I can kind of control how much pressure I'm feeling on this ball by how much of my weight I'm placing on it. And if you are on a ball, you also have the option to do this laying down, which is even more pressure really. Whew, but I don't have to have as much work happening with my arms. If I want to feel a little bit less, I can drive through this opposite foot so that my hips aren't resting as firmly on that ball. About 15 more seconds on this side. Staying on the outer hip, almost to that outer hip crease. And there's a minute on that side. Then take a second to switch sides if you are doing one side at a time. If you're just doing both hips on that foam roller, then you just keep cruising along. All right, a minute on this side. You cross that opposite foot over. Stay flexed through this ankle. It's going to help protect that right knee. And you're just kind of using the strength of your hip muscles on the right side to drive your right knee away from you. And just leaning over to the right. Target the outside of that hip. And again, if you want to lay on the ground, I kind of like this version better because I can give my arms a break. My arms have already worked really hard in my training. or it might be aggravating on the wrists. So laying down, keeping the breath nice and fluid, going in small little circles. You can even stay still over a spot if you feel like you found a spot that feels particularly like it's getting a lot of good out of having the ball there. You don't have to keep moving. 3, 2, 1. Excellent. All right, now that we've kind of tenderized the meat all around our hips, we're going to target the lower back next. Okay. Show you with the foam roller first, and then we'll move to the lacrosse ball. Okay. It's going to look very similar setup for both the foam roller and the lacrosse ball. Only difference is instead of having the implement, the foam roller or the lacrosse ball, below the hip, kind of below the belt line, it's going to be above the belt line. So I'm going to have my feet out in front of me. I'm going to lift my hips. I don't really have to use my arms for this. I'm just going to roll along that low back, kind of just above that belt line. I'm going to focus on that spot. I kind of have to use my core a lot. I guess that's where my arms could come in handy. Okay. You can kind of go from one side to the other. If you're doing both at the same time, again, we're going to spend 2 minutes here. Otherwise, you can do same thing, same position, crossing over. Okay. It's a little bit more awkward with the foam roller, actually. You can try it. You might be more successful than me, especially if your floor's not as slick. I like the lacrosse ball or the tennis ball if I'm going to be doing one at a time. And that's what this looks like. So I'm going to pick a spot kind of just above the belt line here. I don't want to be resting on any of the bony surfaces there. So kind of up and to the side. Set my timer for a minute. I'm crossing that leg over. I'm trying to kind of get over to the side here. So I'm still leaning over to the left. You can't really do this up on your hands like you would your glutes. It's just too awkward of an angle. So again, kind of my recommendations for targeting the low back for self-massage are going to be doing both at once on the foam roller or laying down like this with the lacrosse ball. 30 more seconds on this side. Relax the muscles in your neck. Get any of those knots that have built up in the lower back and the spinal erectors. And the lumbar spine. Okay, that's a minute on that side. Let's switch. I'm crossing this leg over. I'm setting this above the belt line and over slightly to the right. It's not resting on any bony surface. It's definitely not on my spine. And I'm leaning over to the right here as I'm driving my right knee kind of toward the ground here. Noticing if one side feels different than the other. Most of us tend to carry a little bit more tension in one hip versus the other. And so that lower back might feel different too. About halfway done on this side. Ten more seconds. Spending a little bit more time on any spots that feel like they're getting extra goodness out of this. Okay. All right, so we got our hips, we got our low back. Last but not least, we're gonna get our quads, and we're gonna use our foam roller for this, okay? So the way you wanna do this, you wanna set this foam roller up kind of across your mat if you have one, We're going to work on, you can do both quads at the same time. Again, that's going to feel a little bit more gentle. So we're working that area between the knee and the hip crease. So what that looks like, you have your forearms on the ground and you're just going back and forth. This is going to be the most gentle again, because we're kind of distributing our weight on each side. So if you're doing this version, you can spend a minute here. You might even add a little bit of extra sensation here by bending one knee at a time. Okay. Or you can do 1 minute per side, which is what I'll do to time us. So to do that, I'm moving my foam roller so that I've got room for this other leg to knee to come up. So I'm going to lay the front of my hip, I'm going to lay my quad onto this foam roller, and this other knee is going to come up and kind of like a rudder here. So I'm pushing down with my knee, still using my forearms, and this way I've got a lot more weight distributed. I can feel onto this right quad on this foam roller, and I can target spots that feel like they need a little bit more, so maybe a little bit down closer to the knee, never going directly on top of the knee. You can go as high as that front of that hip flexor. About 30 seconds left on this side. That same thing that I was showing you a second ago when you had both legs on the foam roller, can also bend. It's a lot more aggressive with one leg, meaning you're just going to feel it a lot more, and you're going to have to control the breathing. It's just going to feel a lot more intense. 3, 2, 1. Never want to feel so intense you're seeing stars. It should feel something like a 6, maybe a 7 max in terms of kind of discomfort. Should never feel pain. Mobility is not one of those areas where it's, quote, no pain, no gain. It should never feel sharp. It should never feel like your pain is your body sending you a signal that what you're doing is hurting you, is potentially causing damage. Could limit your ability to train later, could limit your healthy range of motion and just going about your day-to-day life. So listen to pain and let it be your signal to stop. Now, discomfort is different. Discomfort, nothing feels off, nothing feels sharp. It just feels like again, a deep massage. You can add a bend on this side if you want. Drawing that heel toward the seat. About 10 more seconds here. 3, 2, 1. All right. So it should feel a lot more loose in the front of the legs and the hips, and then the outside of the hips and the low back. Got out some of these knots, created a little bit better blood flow. All right, next up, we're going to do some banded distraction. We're going to distract your joints, basically moving around where each bone, in this case the femur bone, sits in the hip socket using the power of our mighty resistance bands. So you're going to need one of your 2 thick bands. Some folks might like this really thick one. This is a little too much for me, so I'm going to use this kind of medium thick one. Okay, so first move, I'm going to actually put this about knee height around this anchor here. You're going to want a mat or something to rest your knees on, because you're going to be kind of putting your knee down on the ground. Now you're going to step out so you feel a good amount of resistance on this band, and you're going to want it right up in your hip crease. If it's down below, like on your quad, it's not going to really be doing you as much good. So you're going to get it right up in the ghoulie, as my favorite mobility expert, Kelly Starrett, says. And you're going to come down on one knee, and then you're going to walk that right foot. So I got the band around my right hip. I'm going to walk that right foot out. I'm going to rest my right hand here on the inside of my thigh, and I'm going to kind of just look over my shoulder here. This back foot, this back leg is extended. Set the timer for a minute on this side here. Okay, and I can stay still, or I can do some little bit of hip circles if I want to come down to my forearms. If that feels good, maybe intensifying the stretch on the inner thigh, I can do that. But we want to use this band to just kind of pull this hip to the outer edge, pull the femur to the outer edge of the hip socket. And it's going to have room to do that now that you softened it all up with the lacrosse ball or the foam roller. Okay. Ungluing everything here, using the band to our advantage. If you've gotten into this and you feel like the band that you've chosen is either too thick or too thin, swap it out. Don't torture yourself. I do recommend pants or thicker pants if you can for something like this. It's a little bit more comfortable. 3, 2, 1. Okay, the way to elegantly as possible get out of this, you're gonna come up on your hands, tuck your back toes, and you're gonna walk your hands back in kind of this wide forward fold, and then stand it up. Whew. Okay, already feeling a lot of spaciousness in this hip. I'm gonna reset my timer. We're gonna do the left side. Bring it all the way up to the ghoulie. Coming down. Switch feet. So you want the side that's got the band on it. That's the side that is out in front, okay? I make the mistake so you don't have to. Turn a little this way so you can see me. So back knee is down, left knee is out. My right hand's right underneath my face. I'm using this left hand to push on this left thigh. Start my timer. I'm looking out over this left shoulder, and I'm feeling this resistance pulling this hip back, okay? Ungluing it from its socket. Same thing on this side. If you went down to the forearms, take whichever variation you took on one side. We're going to do the same thing on this side. We'll create some symmetry. And if you notice you did something on one side that you can't do on the other, there means there's some room for some more mobility that needs to be done here. Maybe you need to spend a little bit more time on that limited side. Maybe instead of a minute, we're doing it for 2 minutes or a minute and a half. Okay. About 10 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. Now remember how we get out of this. We're on our hands. They're squared underneath our shoulders. We're going to tuck the toe, step back, walk the hands back, wide leg forward fold, slowly roll up. Okay. Whew. Step out of that. So there's one movement for us. The next movement is going to be more for the front of the hip flexors. Okay. So use that same band. I might try the thicker band with this one, see how it feels. This one felt all right. Thinking maybe I can handle the thicker band. Let's just prove it can be done. We're going to still have it right about at knee height, so about the same height as the other one. This time we're going to face the anchor point. Again, you're going to want a mat, maybe even an Eric's pad or an ab mat underneath you to rest your knee on. So you're going to be on your knee for a solid minute here. You step into this, and you want it just underneath your hip crease. Okay, again, it's not going to do you any good if it's down here on your thigh. We want it as close to that hip joint as possible. You're going to walk out till you feel a nice amount of resistance. Set that knee down, the same knee that has the band on it. And we're going to spend a minute right here. We're not arching through the back. We're keeping the tail tucked under. So we should feel a big, deep stretch across the front of this right hip right now. So the side that the band is on. Okay. You can add a little rock forward to back if you want. You might put your hands behind your head and add a little extra length to your right side by tipping the upper body to the left, driving that right elbow to the ceiling. Choose your own adventure. You might twist the other side. Keep squeezing through the glutes. Really feel that opening on the front of that right hip here. 10 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. Okay, how we get out of this? Grab onto the band so it's not tugging on you. Use it to help you stand up. Shimmy it down. We'll hit the same thing on the other side. So step your left leg in. You want it all the way up underneath that hip crease. Okay. Step back till you feel a nice big tug. Set that same knee, so in this case it's the left knee, down on the ground. Start your timer. Again, I'm tucking the tail under. Either holding some stillness here, feeling that opening here. If I want to add a little bit of motion, I can. Maybe it's a little rock back and forth. Maybe it's a reach overhead with hands behind the head. Maybe if it's more length, I'm tipping to the right side so that elbow on the left side is tipping up toward the ceiling, creating one long line down from my elbow to my knee, lengthening through the side body, making a deeper stretch to that left hip flexor. Maybe it's, again, a twist to the side. Choose what feels best to you in your body. This is your mobility practice. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Awesome. Step up out of there. Shimmy it down. Whew. We're getting somewhere. All right, now that we've smashed and meat tenderized all our tissues, distracted our joints, got everything into a better position in the joint sockets, we are going to add in some dynamic flexibility. So stretching through the muscles, creating length, and getting everything into a stronger, bigger range of motion with all the space we created. So first area we're going to focus on with our hips, we're going to start with our feet, the soles of our feet together, sitting nice and tall. Okay. I'm going to rest my hands here at my heart, and I'm going to straighten and hover one leg out in front of me. Okay. From here, I'm going to sweep it behind, trying to lean as little as possible the other way. There's going to have to always be a little bit of leaning. Airplane arms out. I'm going to square up my heart with this front knee, in this case, my left knee. Deep breath in. Exhale, I'm going to fold with a flat back toward that knee. Inhale, rise, hands back to my heart. I'm going to lift through the knee. You'll feel that outer hip firing, and then come back to the center. Whew, it's going to be more intense than you expect. Okay, we're going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to straighten that left leg. You're going to feel the front of that hip flexor, that quad firing, a little bit of strengthening going on as well as stretching. Bring that heel toward our seat. Sit up as tall as you can. Stay flexed through these ankles. Airplane those arms out. Square up toward that front knee. Inhale. Exhale, bow forward with a flat back. Big stretch on the outer hip on that right side. Inhale, rise up. I'm going to lift that left knee and swing it around, come to center. That feels amazing and hard at the same time. We're getting stretching, we're getting stability all at once. So we're going to do 3 to 5 of these per side. So that was one. Again, we straighten that right leg, swing it around behind. Airplane arms, inhale, exhale, fold. Inhale, rise, hands to heart, lift, swing it around. We're getting there. Straighten that left leg. Leaning as little as possible. Bring that heel. Grab both those hip sit bones down toward the ground. Airplane arms, inhale. Exhale, fold forward, big stretch. Inhale, rise. Hands to heart, swing it around. Now, as we're going through this, you're like, Rachel, there's just no way. There's pain in my knees or there's pain in my ankles. Modification to this is just sitting in this 90-90 position, squaring up just like you would, just you were doing with the airplane arms, but we're going to keep up on the fingertips. And we're going to lift that front knee as we fold down. And then inhale, drive the knee down as you come up. You're going to get about 10 per side of that variation. So 10 of those here, 10 of those on the other side. Okay, but we're going to keep on plunging through with these circles that we were doing. So we just did 2 per side. We're going to get 3. Airplane arms. Lower. Inhale, rise. Hands to heart. Bring it around. Hands on the sternum just helps keep the posture nice and tall. Airplane arms, nice flat back. Fold with your exhale. Right. So I'm going to show you that modification again on the left side. Okay, so again, if swinging the legs around, it just feels like too much for you, this is a perfectly amazing option as well. So let me review it on this side. So I'm going to turn my torso toward that front knee, in this case, my left knee. I'm up on my fingertips of each hand. Deep breath in, lift the knee. So I'm driving the outside edge of my foot in the ground. Exhale as I fold toward that knee. Inhale at the bottom. Exhale, drive the knee down. Feel that outer hip fire up as you inhale. Okay. So again, that variation is 10 per side. And we're getting 3 to 5 per side with the leg swings. Okay. Next up, let me just double check here. Okay. Lizard with a twist. So this position is going to look very similar to the banded hip distraction that we did. You might want to have a block in place just in case. I'm going to put it kind of on that medium height here. I'm going to step out with my right foot. Draw that left knee back, so get a nice big stretch in the front of this hip flexor. Hands are resting on that block, okay? And I'm kind of heel toeing this right foot out to the side. Looks like that. But I'm still keeping my foot connected to the ground. And if this block feels unnecessary, if I want to feel more, I might go a little lower with it, or I might come to the hands, okay? Now, to add a dynamic component, dynamic meaning movement component, we're going to add a twist to this. So left hand stays square underneath my face. I'm going to inhale my right arm up to the ceiling and exhale, thread it behind the arm. We're going to get 10 of these. Inhale, reach. Exhale, thread. Inhale, reach. Exhale, thread. There's 3. Inhale, peel your heart open to the sky. Exhale, twist, compress. Feel a big stretch across the front of the left hip and the outside of the right hip as we rotate through the spine. 4 more. Inhale, rise. Beautiful. 3 more. Inhale, rise. 2 more. Peel open, follow your fingertips with your eyes, and follow your movement with the breath. Last one. Gorgeous. Come up onto the hands, send the hips back, coming to a kneeling position. We'll do the other side. So even if you didn't need a block for that first side, I recommend trying it for the second side just in case it feels different and you need it. So this time, left foot's going to be out in front. Hands come to the block. I'm going to draw that right knee behind me, creating that nice obtuse angle. Is that the word I'm looking for? I'm trying to remember 9th grade geometry. Guess what grade that was in? Trying to remember a lot of things. And if this feels okay, and if I want to feel a little bit more, I might come down to a little bit lower or lose the block altogether. I'm going to add in my twists, driving that knee out. Reach with the left hand. Exhale, thread underneath the right arm. 10 of these. Inhale, open wide. 2. Strong through the right arm. Compressing through the spine. Inhale, open up through the rib cage. Exhale, wring it out. Keep that right shoulder away from your ear. We're not collapsing onto it. Keeping some nice length through the neck. Last 4. Last 3, following our hand with our eyes. Last 2. Last 1. Excellent. All right. Last piece of mobility work here for our low back is going to be child's pose. So for child's pose, knees can be wide or close together, whatever feels best to you. Either way, you want your big toes together to touch, okay? So hips stay back. A lot of people, when they try to do child's pose, have their hips high. What we're trying to do is create some flexion or rounding in the low back to stretch out that part of the low back. So keep the hips low, walk the hands out in front of you. Head can rest on the mat or maybe on that block, okay? I'm gonna stay here for 5 breaths. Breathing into the space in your low back. If you want to feel more through the shoulders, you might rise up onto your fingertips. And go ahead and walk your hands over to the right as your hips ground to the left. Can always have a blanket or something folded over or a towel rested under your knees or the tops of your feet if this feels uncomfortable. Right now we're creating length through that left side body. Couple more deep breaths on this side. And then walk your fingertips back through center where you started, taking them all the way over to the left. Ground your right hip toward the right heel. Big stretch through that right side body, that space underneath the right armpit. Two more deep breaths. Into the side body, into the low back. Very good. And walk your hands back to center and then slowly walk them back towards your knees to come up to a kneeling position. Awesome work. One last part. Hope you're feeling nice and limber. All right, we are going to round out this mobility session for your hips, quads, and lower back with some stability work. So we've massaged out and got rid of some adhesions. We've done banded distraction to get our joints in a better position, the bones inside the capsule. We've done some dynamic flexibility to create length, and now we're going to lock in those positions and help all of these new positions feel safe in our body by creating some stability, some musculature support around these positions with strength work. So I'm going to need a block for this first one. It's for our hips. So knees are bent, feet are flat on the ground. You're going to put this block the skinny way in between your knees, and you're going to lie back. Full foot on the ground, hands are by your side, arms by your sides. Chin is neutral here. I'm going to Actually put my hands on my stomach for a second. I'm going to breathe into my chest. So I'm going to feel my ribs drop down into the ground. I'm going to feel that low back come into contact with the earth. Might take a couple breaths till you feel your body release into that position. So you should feel kind of that gap of air disappear between the floor and your low back. Okay, once you've got that, you can keep your hands there for that feedback, making sure that belly is not rising and falling too much and losing that low back position. As we do that, we're going to bridge up. So I'm going to just peel my low back, or peel my hips rather, off the ground, keeping a nice flat low back. I'm not arching. Okay, the hips are tucked. I'm bridging up. I'm squeezing that block, and I'm lowering down. There's one. We're going to get 15 of these. Exhale as you bridge up. Inhale as you lower. 3. 4. 5. Reestablishing contact with the low back in between each rep. 6. 7. 8. Driving down and forward with the heel. 9. 10. 5 more. 11. 12. If you want to make this spicier and you can still keep your back neutral, you can do this with one leg. One knee bends in deeply. Hands are by our side. And I'm bridging up. Again, I'm just peeling off. I'm not bridging the hips as high as they can go. And I'm getting 10 to 15 per side. And let's finish this out with the 2 together, though. 13. 14. Nice neutral low back. And 15. Excellent. Move that block. You can roll to one side to come up. Next up, we've got a wall sit. Okay, you can use that block again if you'd like. Skinny way in between the knees to squeeze them, or you can go without a block. I'm going to show you what it looks like without a block first. Wall sit. So I'm going to look for whatever angle I can take for my knees that doesn't feel painful. If I want to work a little bit on tendon health for my knees, I might come up onto my toes here, but try that at your own discretion. This is always, as always, choose your own adventure. So I'm going to find my the wall with my low back again. Find whatever angle works for me. The deepest angle I'd recommend is 90 degrees for hips are 90 degrees from your back, knees are 90 degrees. Again, you can use that block here in between the knees. We're going to hold for 30 seconds to a minute here. Firing up the quads here. That's where we should feel this. Quads and a little bit of core. We want shoulders back. Back of the head is against the wall. Nice proud posture. Again, if you want to work that tendon health on the knees, you can come up on the toes. If you're not ready to be all the way on your toes, you can take it one at a time. With or without that block, I'm squeezing together that block with my thighs. I'm also getting a little bit of inner thigh. You can also do it without the block. Try not to rest your hands here. We're going to use the strength of our core. 15 seconds. Locking in these positions. Strong through the quads. 3, 2, 1. Relax. I'm going to use my hands. Walk myself back. Very good. Last but not least, the low back, we've got a little core exercise. One of my favorite exercises is called the dead bug. And I guess it's called a dead bug because I'm kind of moving my arms and my legs the way a dead bug does, like when it's almost dead. That's my best guess. So we're going to let me show you the movement first. So I'm going to bring my shins to parallel with the ground. My arms are going to be reaching straight toward the ceiling, palms face one another, almost like I'm holding a beach ball. Okay. And I'm going to lift my shoulders slightly off the ground. So I'm creating this tension in my abs. Okay. Again, that low back is pressed against the floor. And I'm going to work my rotational core, my contralateral core, by moving opposite arm, opposite leg. Okay, so we have really dumb words like dead bug and then fancy words like contralateral. A little bit of everything here today. So we're going to get 5 to 10 per side. Reach with the right arm, left leg reaches, then back to center. This feels like too much on the neck. You can lower the shoulders, but it's going to be a lot more core work if you just barely lift the shoulders. But it doesn't feel great on everybody's neck, I understand. Okay, you're going to really feel it as that leg lengthens. 5. Keep the shoulders down away from the ears. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. Whew, give yourself a squeeze. If that was all too much for you and you just want to work with the low body, lowering one foot at a time with the knees bent, that is perfectly okay. We're still working the core here. And the whole point of working the core in this mobility routine is by strengthening the core, we help support the low back. So low back is a key component today, and we want to help support it by creating a strong foundation around our core and around our spine. So that's how we lock in some of those positions we just created. So I hope this was useful for you. I hope you're feeling nice and open and mobile through your hips and your quads now. No, I am. Thank you so much.